What about soybeans? I know it's a little bit happier, but we've got a little bit more of a chance if it rains.
Right. Soybeans are a lot more flexible on the water. They can take a lot of stress. They can abort pods. They can abort flowers. If they get a timely rain, they can put new flowers on. And if there's enough time left in the year, those pods will develop and produce some seed. But there is a point that they're going to get beyond where it's either too late for them to put pods on and fill them, or they're just going to run out of water and suffer the same fate as the corn does.
Okay. Well, you said there's about 2 weeks on corn, critical, next 2 weeks. Well, how much time do we have on soybeans? The clock's probably ticking, isn't it?
Beans don't take as much water out of the soil, so if there's some there, they can live a little bit longer. They're a lot smaller plant, they have smaller leaf surface, they're not as high up, so they don't have as much evapotranspiration.
Okay.
So where corn might be, say, 2 to 3 weeks, I'd say 3 to maybe 5 weeks on the beans yet, depending on the situation.
Okay.
But you still have a chance of rain making a difference.
Okay. Okay. I know that you've seen some insect problems, and it's dry, but apparently not too dry for insects.
Insects are always hungry. They seem to be coming out. Japanese beetles have been a real problem this year in certain areas. Some places haven't had any problems. I heard that up at Malta Bend this year, for example. They were thick up there. They sprayed a lot of them up there.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of them up there. In the river bottom, a lot of them were sprayed. But I've got some traps that monitor for Japanese beetles. 6 years ago, I was catching 2 a day. This year, I'm catching 20,000 a day.
Oh my.
Yeah, they're really thick. And the bad part about them, they have no diseases, no natural enemies. They eat 440 different types of plants. And they're on a geometric population increase for the next 8 to 12 years.
Oh, so they're going to be a problem for a while.
Yeah, well, that's their optimistic prediction, is they'll have some kind of control in 8 to 12 years. But people were spraying for them this past weekend, and some of the pilots have talked with their customers and indicated the farmer really needs to look at the field, and when they did, they stopped spraying because they're not sure they're going to have enough crop out there to justify the expense.
Really? Well, that's another thing when you talk about the crop. I know there's a lot of spotty stands. A lot of people, when they planted, it was too dry. The soybeans laid there. You'd have thought we'd got a rain. It was the 1st of June or the late May, but we haven't had, I think we had 9/10 at our house and 3 different rains in June. So
that's a normal year you hope for.
Yeah. That's a normal year? I don't want any abnormal years then. No, so it's just laying there. So some of them may still sprout, I guess, if we get a rain, theoretically. But it's probably going to hurt yields. How much?
Well, the beans that may come up are going to be far behind. If the late beans come up are mixed in with the earlier beans, they're probably going to act like a weed and just siphon off water and nutrients that the healthy plants could use.
Right.
If they're by themselves out in the middle of the field where, say, half a field all comes up late, it's going to need some rain quick just to give them a chance to get some height on and grow.
Really?
Yep, I would, and it's the same thing. If you don't have a stand, you can't produce much. And I would say you could lose, without a stand, 75 to 90%, even under ideal conditions.
Really?
Yeah, some of the stands I've seen are that thin.
Yeah.
And the early stands, it's back to the same thing again. It depends when the rain comes and how much there is.
Right. Right. Well, right now they look like they're hanging on, although they're yellowing. Why are they yellowing in some areas? Is that just more stress?
I would assume it'd be stress on it right now.
Right.
We've also got some of the beans actually showing signs of sunburn.
Oh, I didn't know beans could sunburn.
Yeah, the leaves will turn yellow, red on top, just a sunburn.
And does that damage them in any way? Or?
Well, you get rid of the photosynthetic capacity of those leaves, so you're not producing food for it.
Okay.
Is the main thing.
So more good news. You're just the bearer of good news today.
Yeah, maybe some people will stop asking questions.
What about spraying fungicide? I know some people are still doing it. Usually this time the crop dusters are going crazy here in Saline County, but I haven't heard as many this year. Should people be spraying fungicide? Is it going to help?
Under present conditions, no.
Okay.
Even under, there was a study out there that showed if you have less than 4% disease severity, you're losing money. It takes 5% to break even. But that assumes that you have a normal yield and disease pressure. we don't have any disease pressure. I saw an article out from the state plant pathologist. She has not got any reports of disease on corn or beans so far this year.
You've got to have a little water, huh, to make
Yeah.
disease, and we don't have that.
You gotta have moisture because every disease that comes in has to have moisture to germinate on the leaf.
Okay.
We haven't had any.
I know our dry weather's also caused havoc with people spraying fields. I know there's a lot of fields that haven't gotten a good kill on the weeds. And is there anything they can do? I mean, should they be spraying now? Should they give up?
Actually, if they have crop insurance, they need to take normal care of the field.
Okay.
If they have a situation where they haven't sprayed at all, and they've got it insured, they need to spray or else their insurance could be denied possibly.
Okay.
But as far as controlling weeds, the biggest problem is the weeds are stressed, they're toughened up, the spray is going to be harder to get into them, you're going to need maximum rates of chemical to kill them. Also, you're going to need a lot more water for two reasons. You need it to get it to soak in. If you put water on the leaves, they'll perk up a little bit, they'll take more chemical in. But also as they drive across the field with ground rigs, they're stirring up a lot of dust. And a lot of that dust is trapping the chemical and taking it to the ground and basically inactivating the chemical.
Oh.
So they need to dry slower to minimize dust. But on the other hand, if we don't get any rain soon, if they've done the basic chemical control to satisfy insurance, they're probably just about as well off.
Okay. Lots of good choices. Now we're going to talk about the G word, grasshoppers.
Oh yeah.
You've had some reports of grasshoppers.
I've heard a couple of farmers say, where are the grasshoppers this year? We always have grasshoppers when they get hot and dry.
Right.
Well, I got a report yesterday. They're starting to move out of the pastures and out of the fence rows into fields now. They're pretty small right now, so they really haven't got a lot of concern about the damage they're doing, but the potential for them to grow and eat a lot more is a real concern right now.
Okay.
And I wouldn't tell anybody to go out and spray now, but I'd tell everybody to start looking for them. And if you find them, you just need to take whatever appropriate controls you think you need.
Okay, and that's hard to know this year because it's hard to know whether it's going to be profitable or not.
Well,
It's worth it.
If they get into the cornfield and find out they've got nothing to eat, that'll pretty well take care of them.
Okay. Hey, I know we talked a little bit about it, but people are running out of hay. I know people are already feeding hay for their cattle. They're running out of pasture.
Right.
And so they're already feeding hay. I know in Arkansas they're calling for people to send them hay. What have you heard about hay shortages here in Missouri?
Well, in general, everybody I've talked to about it, they've got about a 50% hay crop this year.
Okay.
But even at that, compared to places south and west of us, we've been blessed because they've got less of a hay crop than we do.
Okay.
I've heard of prices for round bales anywhere from $50 to $100 a bale. Don't know the specific size, so that could have an influence on it.
Okay.
Small square bales, $4 to $6.
I wish I had some.
Yeah, everybody does right now. But it's, if right now I've talked to several too, they're just going to wait and sell the hay later. They don't want to sell it yet. Some
Okay.
people have gone out to bale hay and found that all they had was stems left on the grass. They didn't have any leaves, so that wouldn't even make good hay. We've also had several people that after wheat harvest bale some of their straw.
Now tell me how that works.
Basically, they bale the straw and then they cover it up and inject ammonia into it.
Okay.
There's several ways they can do that. But that would actually give the straw a protein content.
Ah.
And they can use it basically for roughage to get their animals alive during the wet winter and stuff.
Okay. Well, let's hope that next time we talk we have a lot better news. But I appreciate you being here, Wayne.
You're welcome.
And I want to thank our videographer, Sarah Reed. And I also want to thank our sponsor, Central Missouri Agri Service. Thank you very much.